Hello, and welcome to the Finance and Tech podcast. I'm your host and Chief Finance Techie, Simon Ritchie, and this is the show where we dive into all things technology for finance teams. I like to interview other finance techies, finance leaders, and industry legends who share their stories, strategies, and insights to help you build and grow your career in finance. In this episode, I speak to Nick Vandesype. Nick is the co-founder and CEO at Predikt. And Nick is an AI strategy and advanced analytics professional with a background in financial analysis, financial modeling, and data science. He started his career at Deloitte before deciding to strike out on his own, blaze his own trail, and work on Predikt. Predikt is a new startup, and they're pioneering a new technology and building predictive analytics solutions for finance teams. Now, you might be sitting there wondering, what is predictive analytics? And that's really why we recorded this episode. I am not going to try and butcher a definition for you right now. I think Nick understands the topic so well. He makes it something really complex sound simple. It's impressive. Well done, Nick. That's great. Nick's superpower in working with finance teams is storytelling, using data and analytics to create digestible and actionable insights. Right, well, that's enough of me. Enjoy the episode. Hey, Nick, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Hey, Simon, thanks a lot for having me.
Awesome. So maybe we can just start by you could give us a quick intro, just a bit on your background and your journey so far.
Sure, right. So as you know, my name is Nick Vandesype, right? I'm a Belgian national living in Switzerland for the last 6 years. I'm a consultant for the last 10 years, right? My first steps I did in a Big Four company at Deloitte in Belgium at that point of time. And the last few years, I've incorporated my own incorporation company where I've been working with visionary, innovative CFOs around the topic of data and AI and about the applications of data and AI in finance. Beginning of this year, I found a new company called Predikt, written with a K, not with a C, where we're combining all this expertise in a brand new product for finance.
Amazing. On the brave journey, I commend you. Well done. What's inspired you to get into this field, working with finance teams, especially in predictive analytics and AI? What got you into it?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, I need to be honest, right? The reason I landed in finance is coincidence. So I could have landed in supply chain strategy, finance, pricing, any other department, right? The reason why I stayed in finance is probably a different story, right? I'm a statistician from background, so I have little or nothing to do with finance. But when young people join a new company, they come with a different mindset, they come with different ideas. And those first years at Deloitte, I saw things where I was very surprised about, right? How very big organizations are managing their company using spreadsheets, using very manual biased exercises. And during my education as a statistician, I've seen different approaches. I've seen approaches which actually cover or try to solve the same issue, predicting the future. And I thought, well, maybe I can make a difference here. And that's the reason why I stayed in finance, Simon.
Amazing. Yeah, awesome. Very cool. And then a nice question I like to ask all the guests is, what's a favorite quote that inspires you or motivates you? And yeah, what does that mean to you?
Okay, quotes. That's well, first of all, Simon, you need to know I'm a true quote junkie. Many years ago, I've been created my own quotes based on life lessons, which I saw exactly, and I branded them as Nickisms. Like you have Marxism, I branded them as Nickisms, exactly. Now I stopped doing that. But if you think that asking me for my favorite quote was an easy question, then you got it wrong.
Write a new one for us.
Well, I will do so. Let me think about one of my favorite ones, right? Maybe it's one of Peter Drucker. I don't know if you know him. He has been a thinker, a writer, an analyst about modern management in the last century, right?
Okay.
And one of his quotes has been, and you will know the quote, I think, but the West the best way to predict the future is to create it. And for me, that's a very important and a very good quote, because I can apply the quote on different aspects, right? I can apply the quote from a personal perspective, right? I'm using the quote quite a bit with my wife, with my friends, with my family, where we speak about the future, because I truly believe that every individual steers his or own future himself, right? You make your own decisions, you think about what makes you happy, what drives you, what energizes you, and based on that, you're setting out your route to achieve that future, achieve that ideal world, right? So I truly believe that predicting the future is actually creating it. And I can almost repeat the story on the professional side. Same with our startup, which I just joined. We don't know what the future will bring, but we know where we want to be. We know what kind of culture we want to create. We know what kind of people we would like to be. We know what kind of job we would like to do, what drives us. We know how we would like to manage a work-life balance. And again, I truly believe that we are creating our future by predicting it.
Yeah, awesome, nice. I really like that. I'm going to steal that, and I've got a few quotes on my wall here, and a load of quotes on my on my wall. So that's going on there.
It's
Um,
really cool.
let's jump in a bit. So let's talk a bit about predictive analytics. So this is a topic that you are a specialist in, spend a lot of time working
Mhm.
in. So could you give us an overview, give the listeners an overview, what is predictive analytics and what does it mean in the context of a finance person's daily role? What would they do with it?
Sure, Simon. Well, let's try to keep that short, because I tend to give very long answers on this kind of questions, right? But in a nutshell, predictive analytics is the art of using data and technology to create insights in the future. The application for finance are obvious when you hear the definition, right? It's about augmenting your forecasting, your budget, your planning cycles by more data-driven, non-biased applications technologies. That's where it's about.
Okay, okay. And so what's a bit of a practical example of where you would use predictive analytics alongside some of the more traditional budgeting planning techniques where you give people templates and you ask them to plug in their estimates using their knowledge.
Mhm.
How does that work, and how would you blend the two?
Yeah, well, there are actually different applications of predictive analytics and finance, right? If we take it very practically, in a forecast exercise, a rolling forecast exercise in finance on a monthly base, where people are forecasting what the next 12 months will be. Well,
Yeah.
actually, every single time people are doing the same, right? They're looking at the history, they're analyzing seasonality, analyzing certain trends, looking at events, and try to bring that all together in a certain forecast. Well, that's a very nice example where predictive analytics could help. Predictive analytics identifies the signals in the past. If the signal is clear,
Yeah.
predictive analytics will identify it and apply the signal going forward. But what I've seen in the market with my customers is that actually predictive analytics is used much beyond this traditional applications of predicting the future, right? It's also about benchmarking, for example, a plan's budget which has been created, understanding where errors has been made. We all know how easily you put 100 instead of a 10 in the template, right? It's identifying this kind of anomalies. It's understanding what the risks are, right? Understanding how macroeconomic climate is evolving and which impact that does have on your full P&L, and be able to communicate these kind of risks and opportunities much more easily with stakeholders and the board. That's where predictive analytics is really about for me.
Yeah, amazing. So, Nick, could you just help give us a bit of context about predictive analytics? We're hearing a lot about AI, especially generative AI right now. So, just put in context, what is predictive analytics as you would talk about it, and what's happening when you're working on it.
That's a very good and very difficult question, Simon. I will try to give an answer on that one, right? Um, I think all these words, right? Predictive analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, right? They're all words which do contain a lot, right? I
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
need to be said, right? What we are doing in predictive analytics, we're leveraging algorithms time series algorithms. That means algorithms which are timestamp in there to kind of analyze the past. And analyzing the past can be done in different ways, right? If you go really technical, we can start talking about neural network, Bayesian networks, all these kind of things. We'll not go that direction, right? But we are analyzing the past to understand which signals are in there, and we apply these signals towards a future data set or towards the future, right? Now, how and where does that fit in the broader landscape? It's somewhere in the middle of statistics, because many of the applications which we use are still traditional statistical methodologies, which are augmented with new technologies, evolutions in artificial intelligence. I can give you a very easy example, right? But for example, when we leverage external data in our predictive models, we need to make that data understandable, digestible, right? By just downloading data, we're nothing with it. We are, for example, leveraging ChatGPT in our models to augment what external data really means, to make sure we include the right data sets for right customers. So that's a really nice example where also the newest technologies like generative AI, like ChatGPT, are even used in the backbone of a predictive analytics model to let everything come together, right?
Yeah, fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. And so if you're in a finance team and you're thinking about it today, what what would you be looking into? When would you be looking into predictive?
Yeah, well, first of all finance teams can be looking into predictive, right? I think the only thing which you really need is some historical data. And there we need to be honest and we need to be clear, right? We're analyzing trends from the past,
Yeah.
which means if we don't have any historical data, there's very little which we can identify, very little signals we can search for, right? So every finance team who does have 4 or 5 years of historical data in a structured way, and that's the second thing which you do need, right? Data need to be somehow structured. They can apply predictive analytics pretty easily.
Okay. Okay. Amazing. And what kind of what kind of company would benefit? What are some of the benefits of predictive,
Mm.
and what company? So 4 or 5 years history.
Mhm.
Is it data coming from the accounting system, or it's actually like, it's real sort of customer data, usage activity, etc.
Mhm.
It can be massive data sets.
Yeah. So I think this were several questions in one, right? I think just to reply on your last question, I think all kind of data which your
Yeah.
organization track structurally across the organization can be used in predictive analytics. Also in the models which we are currently developing, right? We do include Salesforce data or HubSpot data, right? Pipeline data to kind of see how much pipeline is looking like. We do include FTE data to understand how bonus schemes and so on are evolving. We do include obviously the external data. We obviously include customer data to understand if customers are paying fast, paying later, right? So all this kind of data sets can be included in your predictive analytics model. That's what we call actually augmenting the historical data with more data sets. And then that's an exercise where we go through with every single organization we work with to understand which data set should we include, because there is always a cost coming with including extra data sets, of course, compared to the trade-off of probably not including it because we don't believe or we don't see the added value of it.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Amazing. And is it just something that big companies get value from, or would you recommend it to newer companies?
no, so
What advice
it
on?
actually has very little to do with the size of the company. That's something I think where CFOs or finance teams probably don't really understand. They do think that it's a very expensive application, that it requires a lot of internal skills and understanding that there need to be done a lot of work on data structuring and master data management before they even can get started with predictive analytics. Well, in all of these things, there is a certain aspect which is true, which means you do need a certain skill, you do need certain data, right? Obviously, but it's absolutely not only for the big companies, right? Oppositely, I would say the bigger the company, and then we really speak about multinationals, the more complex the whole financial technological landscape, the more difficult it is to get all the data together because of all the different systems they are using. The smaller the company, the easier you can work together with the FP&A team, with the CFO, but also with the data and the technologies behind. And the
Yeah.
impact for finance teams on small mid-sized companies are typically even bigger than for big companies. So absolutely, it's not only something for big companies, also medium-sized companies with structured data and with a certain historical data set can be leveraged in predictive analytics.
Yeah, awesome. And then what would you say are some of the benefits that you could expect from an investment in predictive?
Yeah. Well, I think some of the traditional expectations when you invest in artificial intelligence and AI,
Mm.
right? I think it's about getting insights faster, getting them much more accurate. But beyond that, I truly believe the biggest impact of predictive analytics today is the ability to see things which you were not be able to see before, or even better, the possibility to think about aspects, to think about situations which you were not able to think about before because you didn't have the time, because you didn't have the data, because you didn't see the impact, right? All the different reasons. But I do believe that those two last items, right, thinking beyond the usual, are probably the most important application of predictive analytics and artificial intelligence and finance forecasting today.
That's fantastic. So it's really about getting greater insights faster. So there's a speed element. So you're getting you're getting the insights faster. Improving your accuracy means you can be more efficient with your resources, not have a stock hanging around, more efficient with the resource if you've got flexible resource that you're scheduling.
Absolutely.
There's a sort of a financial, probably a very relatively easily quantifiable financial piece there,
Mm-hmm.
but seeing things you wouldn't see and having the insights so that you can do some really decent strategic modeling and planning, that sounds really valuable.
Exactly, yeah. Think about which CFOs are best prepared for the future. Well, those who thought about the future and those who've seen all the different scenarios, what could happen in the future, right? And that's a true big application of artificial intelligence next to all those which you indeed just mentioned, right? Speed, accuracy, efficiency.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Yeah, perfect. So let's just talk a little bit about your journey, some of the lessons that you've got. What would you say is one of your superpowers when you're working with finance teams? What's something that you love to do that you're very good at doing that you enjoy?
Good question. I think what I've seen the last years where I'm pretty good in, it's in storytelling.
Okay.
Um, I don't have a traditional finance background, right? I'm not an accountant. I haven't really been part of an FP&A team. I've been a consultant, right, with a statistical background. And what we are trained in during our education is quite a bit how and which question should we answer, the hypothesis in statistics, right? And how can we solve that question with the data sets which we have? And that's something which I've seen the last couple of years where my mind has been trained on, sorry, which you don't always see within finance organizations, but how do we make that big data set which we have? Because even if we only talk about the P&L across different entities, different products, right, it's already a pretty big data set. How do we make that data digestible, insightful, actionable, and even more, how can we leverage all these techniques which we've been talking about, right, to create stories about it? And that's something where I truly do believe that I'm pretty good in.
Amazing. Yeah, fantastic. Um, let's let's talk about big picture, future emerging trends. So
Mhm.
in maybe specifically in the predictive analytics, advanced analytics space, what do you think are some of the trends that you would recommend finance professionals that are interested read up on and learn about?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I think we've seen if we just look at the past trend, right? Predictive analytics is now there for approximately 10 years. We've seen that the last year, the whole generative AI topic with ChatGPT has been exploding. I believe that within finance, there are applications of ChatGPT for sure, right, to make data more digestible. But ChatGPT, or more broadly, generative AI, has not yet been applied on numbers at scale, right? Which means we can ask a question and we can get an answer in written text. But
Mhm.
how far can we go with generative AI when it comes to generative scenario planning, for example? What
Yeah.
if we ask a model to create us a scenario, what the impact will be of the war currently in the Gaza region on our P&L, these kind of applications are not yet there today. It's exactly where we with Predikt obviously are working on, but I truly believe that that's something where within finance we'll go towards when it comes to next steps and applications of artificial intelligence.
Fantastic. That's really interesting. Let's talk a little bit about maybe it's a piece of advice that stuck with you throughout your career, something that you share if somebody asks you. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yes, actually, there is directly one thing which comes to my mind. It's a piece of advice which I got from the partner at Deloitte, my very first partner at Deloitte, where I've been working with for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
He always said to me, Nick, if you want to accelerate in life, you need to be patient. Don't go too fast. If you're doing the right things, things will come. And that's something which actually the last 10 years I've been repeating several times a year to myself. When you get impatient, when you want to get things done, just make sure that you're doing the right thing at the right point of time and think about that. But for the rest, be patient and things will come. Also in your private life, that's something which you can apply almost every single time. So thanks a lot, Thomas Cardoon, for this great insight in the beginning of my career.
Amazing. That's a very good piece of advice, especially for me. I'm impatient and yeah, I'm always trying to go faster. Um, what's something on your to learn? I like to ask people about their to learn list. So do you have anything on your I want to learn about this topic in the next year that's worth us chatting about?
Yes, maybe I should answer double on this question. First of all, privately, there is one big topic which I really would like to learn a lot about. It's about meditation and finding internal quietness in this super busy world where things are just moving so fast. Something where I
Yeah.
would really like to learn more about, right? Secondly, when it comes to the professional part of it, I can think about a lot of items where I really would like to learn about. Probably the most interesting at this point of time for me personally, but that's also in situation where I'm today as a founder, as a CEO of a startup. It's really about leadership and how I can set strategy, how I can create that future we've been talking about for finance, and how I can make sure that that whole team is behind that one goal, that one mission, that one vision which we have with Predikt. Something which I'm struggling with today, and where I really hope that the
Yeah.
next year I still learn a lot about.
Amazing. Amazing. Um, Maybe you could just give us quick minute intro on what you're doing with Predikt, and then I'd also love to, ask, where are you at right now? What could me, or the audience do to help you?
Mhm. No, my pleasure, right? With Predikt, we actually try to um, set the next steps in predictive analytics, which means the traditional predictive analytics models have now been out there for a while. But there are two things which are still very difficult today for organizations and for these technologies out there. That's one, capturing external signals, external indicators at scale for your own business. And I think every CFO now thinks, yes, that's true, right? How do I correctly incorporate all these external signals, this macroeconomic, but also demographic, social indicators into my business? And secondly,
Mm,
of course, how do I make them digestible, interpretable, and how can I see the impact of changes on these indicators on my performances across P&L, balance sheet, cash flow? I think that's one very important item, topic where the current predictive analytics technologies are not having any answer to. So with Predikt, we are getting towards that, right? Incorporating external data at scale. Secondly, we are creating, or we're on the mission to create world's first financial digital twin. What does that mean? Well, we've already been talking about generative AI. Well, that's where it's really about, right? With our digital twin, we would like to create an environment where CFOs can almost ask any kind of question towards digital virtual assistants who will not give a written answer, but who will give a number answer. what is the impact of that on that, and you will get a new P&L created by artificial intelligence, understanding what the impact of it is, with a complete contribution matrix next to it, an explanation why it does have which impact, completely digestible, understandable. So actually, that's where we are with Predikt on today, right? Really advancing on predictive analytics. When it comes to where are we? Well, we are actually currently in developing phase, which means we are currently in the need of alpha customers who want to work with us, who want to understand what the impact of predictive analytics and those advancements are for their organization, for their finance community. So that's what we're really searching today. Innovative CFOs who want to embark on this cool journey.
Yeah, well, I hope there's some listening. If they are and they want to get in touch, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
If you're living in Switzerland in the Swiss Alps, if you're not
Yeah,
in Switzerland, probably through LinkedIn. So you can find me under LinkedIn, where I'm pretty active, and where I'm very happy to reply any of your messages.
fantastic. And then I have one last question. So you dropped a big term a minute ago. It was digital twin. I remember I first heard this term a few years ago. Someone who's just threw it out in conversation, and I had absolutely no idea what it meant. So for anybody who has a similar question right now, what is a digital twin?
A digital twin you can compare with a self-driving car. A self-driving car is actually a digital twin of a driving car, right? Of a physical asset. Just like you have the digital twin of a driving car, we are creating a digital twin of your financial books. What does that
Okay.
mean? Well, actually, we try to create a technological environment where every single change on any single item, externally, internally, historically, future mind, people mind, does have an
Mhm.
impact, and we will try to simulate that impact, right? So we
Yeah.
are analyzing how that happened in the past to kind of see what the future brings. You can see it almost like a right hand where you can ask any kind of question to, and who will go and search where that happened in the past to kind of see what impact that will have in the future.
Amazing, amazing. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Nick. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing with some of your insights and explaining predictive analytics for the audience. So thanks very much. All the best with Predikt and what you've got going on, and look forward to playing with the product as soon as it's ready.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Thanks a lot for having me and for inviting me.
Yeah, awesome. All right.
Thanks, Sean. Ciao, ciao.